Hi guys, and welcome to a tool review, a watch tool review to be specific. You'll note the name on the front of this box, the ZBV spring bar tool, and a couple of addresses. I'll be popping these in the description box below so you'll be able to click directly onto those. These aren't affiliate links or anything, they're just direct links to the chap's site who makes and sells this particular tool. It's come in this box. I don't normally do the whole sort of big show of unboxing thing, but I just want to show you the packaging that you're likely to receive yours in if you go ahead and order one. It's nicely packaged in this box. This was actually inside another box which I unpackaged. Opening that up, we have a small bag with an Allen wrench in for making adjustments and replacing the spring bar tips. We have a little business card with the website address and Neil Yeager, who's the very nice chap who sent me this tool for review. Thank you very much, Neil. We have a little yes, that's just the postage oojar madoodad that came with it. And then we have a small instructional video explaining how to make adjustments to the tool itself, with some hints and tips on tool use. So it's very, very well thought out, laid out and presented. Very impressive on that score. Inside the box we have the tool itself wrapped in green bubble wrap. We'll just get rid of that to the side. And there it is. So moving the bubble wrap, there is the tool in question. It's nicely engraved. I'm going to scoot in close so we can have a good close-up look at this. An engraved logo, ZBV, and this is aluminium bar stock. I couldn't tell you anything more than that because I'm not a machinist and I don't know these kind of things, but it's very sturdy, very solid. The whole thing feels very solid. It holds nicely in the hand. We have an adjustable portion down here, which in winding these nuts in and out will widen or narrow the tips accordingly. We'll get on to measurements and all that business in a moment. So we've got a fixed bolt here, we've got another bolt here with a spring which allows the springiness action, which allows you to use it like a pair of tweezers. And here we have the turned spring bar tool portions. These are replaceable, and this is what the little Allen key that comes in the kit is for, to allow you to remove and replace these accordingly. And these are very nicely turned down in such a manner that you've got a nice smooth bar with a rounded tip. You can see some work and effort has gone into making this tool. So what is this tool for? This is a spring bar removal tool for watches with drilled holes in the lugs. So down here on the bench are a little selection of watches that, just to give you an example of watches that might have drilled lugs. And they're typically diver style watches that tend to go for them. That's the classic design and look. And it's not always the older ones that have them, because a lot of newer ones, such as this, which is the Helm Komodo, which is a new micro brand, have drilled lugs. And a lot of modern watches, if you look, especially sort of micro brands and newer ones which are evoking older designs, are going for drilled lugs again. So that's worth bearing in mind. But I've got this big fella here. This is my Parnis, which is based on the Panerai. It's an homage watch. And looking at the lug width there, we are at about 32 millimeters. Now the gap between the pins as this comes out of the box is 28 millimeters. So you think, there's a problem, because obviously this doesn't fit. However, there is adjustability out of the box. You've got this bar here, which is your pivot, which has two nuts here and spring washers. The spring washers hold that under tension. You don't need to touch that one, as I've discovered. This one here, spin that out and push that bar as far as you're able, whilst maintaining the full travel of the spring there. Spin this second nut up there against that, spin that down there. Seconds, literally seconds to do that. And what you've done there is you've widened the gap between these 2 points to about 48 millimeters, which is more than wide enough. You might even be able to squeeze another millimeter or two, but 48 millimeters, which is more than wide enough, as you can now see, to fit even something like this. And the reason I mentioned this, the reason I brought this one down, this doesn't actually have spring bars, it has a screwed, drilled lugs, but they're screwed through. But you could fit spring bars. But the reason I brought this one down and mentioned it is because this is about the widest you are likely to ever encounter on a wristwatch, because these watches are huge, chunky, big beasts of a case, and very, very wide, and that's about as wide as you're ever likely to encounter. So the good thing about that is once it's there, you could leave it there. If you have a couple of watches like this that need a tool like this, that have spring bars that you need to remove, you could leave that like that, and that will still fit any size watch because it will close right down to next to nothing. The actual angle of attack of the pins doesn't vary that much because you're likely, or you're not very likely, to go thinner than, say, about there, which would be a very, very small ladies caliber with drilled lugs. But if it bothered you at all, you can slacken that off and just move that in and hold it in place to as narrow as you want in literally seconds. As a standard, it will fit most typical chunky sized diver style watches like so, and again right the way down. So there is adjustability, but it's absolutely not needed in the case of you don't need to adjust it for each watch that you work on. This is the watch that I had in mind the instant that I saw this tool when I was reading the thread on the Watch You Seek forum. And I had it in mind because the stainless bracelets on this fit so tightly and so close and such fine tolerance wise, it's beyond belief. It's the tightest fitting of any watch I've ever had, ever. And it came on this, which is a G10, which most people refer to as a NATO style G10 style strap, as you can see. Now these are great for quick change because you slip them in, slip them out the spring bars, slip a new one in, and they're brilliant in that respect. I ordered it with a stainless bracelet knowing that I was going to put it on the stainless bracelet because I like stainless bracelets. So using a standard spring bar tool to remove a strap from drilled lug ends with shoulderless spring bars goes something along the lines of: you pop it through the hole, you press, nice and easy, the first one, and then using your finger like so, like this one here, you basically apply pressure to misalign it from the hole so it doesn't pop in. You then move around to the other side, and this is where you hit your first problem on a tight fitting solid end link, because you go like that and that is really, really solid. It feels like it's blocked, and that's because your spring bar is at an angle in a tight fitting watch lug hole, and you are pushing against the edges where it's trapped at an angle. And in doing this, you're actually straining the spring bar itself and potentially causing damage. Now, you can really only do this 2 or 3 times before you put sort of a severe bend or a possible split in the spring bar and cause damage. And to try and negate that, you have to be very, very careful and not put too much pressure on. So as you're wiggling about like this, what typically happens is you go like that and you think, there it goes, and then you push and you think, oh, hang on a minute, it's gone back in on this side. So then you hold it again, you go back around to this side, and you press and you wiggle, and of course this side's now stiff because the same thing has happened. You go like that, and then you realise this one's gone back in, so you go back around to this side, and so on. And it can take 2 or 3 or more goes around. Even more and much more frustrating if you're not used to it, if you don't do this fairly regularly. It's something I do reasonably regularly because I work on watches and service them and such. And with this particular tool, you align the pins in the watch lug holes press like so, and just pull, and off that pops. I want to mention at this point, I mentioned about the adjustment previously because somebody had mentioned on the forum, by the time you've adjusted, taken the time to adjust it for every watch you've got, it'd be quicker and easier to use a standard spring bar tool. Now obviously I demonstrated that that's not the case because you don't really need to adjust it other than for the widest watch that you have. So that kind of put paid to that as an idea. And the other one that sort of stuck with me, and something that occurred to me after I removed this yesterday when I first tried it, somebody had said on there, now if it helped you to fit these, it would be worthwhile because fitting them's harder than removing them. Well, as it happens, you've got two perfectly flat surfaces opposing one another. And what better to compress your spring bar like so, allowing you to slot it in and snap it back into place. As easy and as quick as that. So you've actually got a removal and a refitting tool in one. Now that is good if you ask me. So it works, and I think this is a worthwhile tool. I think it's pretty good value, $25. You can spend more than that on version tools, for example. You can spend, I'm not sure how much the version spring bar tool with the replaceable lens is, but that's probably about that kind of price, if not more, because they tend to be expensive. And this is something that would last you for years and years and years. So if you're somebody who works on watches, I would say it's definitely worthwhile having one. If you're somebody who changes out your straps because you like to do so for a different look, I would say it's worthwhile having one, even if you only have one watch with drilled lugs, because it's going to make life quicker and easier for you, especially if you've got straps like this with really tight fitting solid end links. And if you're somebody who would never change your strap or only ever remove it to, say, fit a battery in a quartz watch once every 3 years, or replace your strap if it was damaged, then no, it's probably not worth it. But as somebody who's been a mechanic, I've got a toolbox full of modified and made tools for specific jobs that made my life easier over the years. Could I have managed without them? Absolutely, yes, I could. Did they make my life easier and prevent many cases of cursing, swearing and hurling tools up the garage in frustration? Absolutely, yes, they did. And for that reason alone, they are worth it to me. So could I manage without this? Yes, I could. Is this going to make my life easy with regards to removing bracelets from drilled lugs? Absolutely it is, yes. So I would recommend it. It's been well thought out, even down to little details like here, which this is a screw obviously with the spring on, but he's the guy that's made this, Neil, has even turned down the threads on there so it doesn't snag as you tweezer that. And as one final bonus, if you like Chinese, you've got a pair of chopsticks. Maybe not on the chopsticks. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. And I think for all those with a kind of negative aspect on it, you know, maybe you should think it's good to have people who will innovate and try. I mean, this is not something I would have ever thought of, but somebody did. Yeah, it wasn't me, and it wasn't any of the people throwing negative comments. Somebody did, and it will be so useful for some people. Maybe not everybody, but for some people. So I applaud him for that. I think that's great stuff, and I always applaud innovation and people who try to come up with something new and a bit different. So I'm impressed with that. I think it's very good. It's a nice little package, all in all. It's well packaged, well put together. It's not going to win any beauty awards, but like all good tools, it does what it's supposed to do. So we'll wrap things up with looking at the pros and cons. On the pro side of it, it's nicely made, it's well put together, and it does what it's supposed to do. On the cons side of it, these inner edges here are a little bit too sharp for my liking. I would, as somebody who works on watches and always takes care of trying not to mark the outer appearance of a watch that I work on. I would like to see these more radiused. Now they're not sharp, they're chamfered and smoothed off, which is great, but I would like to see just these inner faces up here a little bit more radiused. Obviously not so much that it would damage the integrity of the threaded portions where the pins are, but just to smooth, to make those a much more of a curve, so that there's less likelihood of them impacting the case and marking a case that you use it on. And not so much a problem on stainless steel, but say if you were doing it on gold plate or a gold watch, for example, it would be more likely to make a mark on there. So I would like to see that. And something that I did actually mention to Neil via email was, if there is any kind of possibility of adding a pair of fork tipped sections, not necessarily coming out of the end there, perhaps coming up the side, or fitted in such a manner that they can be swiveled out when you need them. I don't know, I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but for the purpose of fitting into the slots and using tweezer-like for shouldered lugs like the Bergen type tool, but in addition to the pins, I think that would make this a real winner, would make it worth its weight in, maybe not gold, but in some kind of high quality metal. I think that would be really useful indeed, if that's a possibility. He did say he would think about how he might be able to implement that. As I say, it was just an idea in my head. I'm not an engineer, I can't say this would be the solution to it, but I think that could be a winner. So they're the only two kind of negatives. That's all there really is to say, other than a big thank you to Neil for being a thoroughly nice gentleman and listening to me waffle in emails and throw suggestions at you, and thank you very much for the opportunity to test this. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, and this big thumbs up from me.